managerial activities that has happened, because there's been so many managerial changes and rumours and links all across Europe, across many big teams have changed managers or are thinking of doing it. So I thought, why don't we just have a little ramble, a nice chilled out ramble, talking about some of these, give my opinions on these and what's going to happen at these clubs. We're going to chew on some gum as well. So let's pop that in. Okay. So, where do we want to start? I think we'll start with Barcelona, because they're one of the few clubs on here who have officially sacked their manager and officially replaced them. Although actually I don't know if it's like 100% confirmed, but it's like 99% done. So Barcelona have sacked Xavi. They've sacked Xavi and replaced him with Hansi Flick. Hansi Flick, the German. Now, let's talk a little bit about this Xavi sacking, because I mean this was an absolute mess. Absolute mess. So originally at the start of the season, of course, Xavi was in charge. The start of the season didn't really go too well. Like Barca were okay, but not really too great. A lot of people were thinking, calling for Xavi to leave, get sacked. And Xavi, in the end, he just took matters into his own hands and he decided, I'm going to quit at the end of the season. He announced it. I remember there was a time when Klopp did it as well. It was kind of funny, like those managers announced it. So he announced it, and people were like, okay, you know, that's probably the right decision, that's fine. But it did kind of catch the board off guard. They weren't planning on sacking him and they weren't planning on replacing him, so this kind of caught them off guard. But they were like, okay, we'll accept the decision, fine. So Xavi continues on, and then suddenly Barcelona pick up some really good form, and Barcelona are cooking actually under Xavi. They're doing really, really well in La Liga, climbing up the table, doing well in the Champions League. Things are going pretty well under Xavi now. And then, you know, people are starting to think actually maybe Xavi should stay, and people are calling him to stay, take back his decision. And at this point, the board, Laporta, the president, is also saying, you know, stay, Xavi, we want you to stay. Not really talking about other solutions, he's begging Xavi to stay, really. So then, Xavi does stay. Xavi relinquishes his decision, but this was actually, like, I kind of skipped a step there because the results started to dip a little. Like, they got knocked out of the Champions League, and I believe the Copa del Rey as well, so it was like they're not going to win a trophy this season. Xavi decides to tell the board, I'm staying, I'm taking back my decision. And this is where things get a bit awkward, because at this point the board are like, okay, cool, but the board were not entirely happy with that. Like, I think at this point they'd thought, okay, let's start looking at other managers now because Xavi's leaving. And then all of a sudden Xavi says he's staying. So then the board are like, okay, fine, you can stay. And then Xavi in the press starts talking about how, like, you know, it's going to be a long process, they don't have money, they can't spend, was Barca board, President Laporta, and suddenly there's some sort of tensions are building between Laporta and Xavi. Results start to dip a little bit under Xavi. There's real tension, and then Laporta then decides to sack Xavi at the end of the season. Actually, one game before the end of the season, which I think is really distasteful. At least let him have that final game, announce he's going to leave, but at least let him have that final game of the season to say goodbye to the fans. He is a Barca legend. So it went from Xavi saying he's leaving, the board then begging him to stay, he then stays, and then the board sack him. Like, what an absolute mess. Now, I do think, if we're speaking on Xavi, I think he's been kind of harshly treated. He has been harshly treated. I think overall his time at Barca was pretty good. I think it was decent. You have to remember, he was the first manager to come in the post-Messi Barcelona era. That's not an easy thing to do. Of course, Messi has been part of the Barcelona fabric for over a decade, right? And Xavi came in with no Messi, no real superstar in that team, right? And it was a difficult period, not a lot of money as well. The team was really in a rebuild stage, and I think he has rebuilt them to a good level. He won La Liga as well, which is pretty impressive. I believe he won the Copa del Rey. European competitions, fine, did pretty bad in that. And look, Xavi, was he going to be the guy who's going to take Barca back to, dominating in Champions Leagues, dominating La Liga? Probably not. But has he put them in a position where they can kick on and now push on to that position? And given his resources, given the squad, has he done a good job? I think he has. You look at the players he's developed, right? He's really brought through that youth so well, and the future of Barca looks so bright because of Xavi. Before he came in, La Masia had a little bit of a dry spell, but then he came in, obviously as a La Masia product, and promoted them, trusted them, and now you look at it, Pau Capasi, Balde, Pedri, of course, didn't come through the academy, but still, Gavi, of course, Lamine Yamal, all of these youngsters, Fermin Lopez, there's so many who have come through under Xavi, and yeah, full credit to him. I think he did a decent job, as I said. Look, was he 100% perfect? Was he going to be the guy who was going to take them to the next level? Probably not. But I think when you look at it holistically, he did a pretty good job considering his resources and expectations and the circus that is Barcelona and what comes with managing that club. And I would love to see him in a return to management at some point, because I think he's definitely got potential as a manager. I think he needs to go to a club where there's a lot less pressure on him than Barcelona, because that just, the expectations from Barca fans and presidents and stuff is just way too much, especially for a young manager like him. So yeah, I wish him all the best, but I liken it to the sort of Pochettino situation where they sacked him, and if they were going to sack him and go for another inexperienced manager like Rafa Marquez, who is the Barca B manager who they're thinking of, what's the point in that? Like, you might as well just stick with Xavi at that point. But if you sack him and do what they have done and went for an elite level manager, I have no issue with that, and I think that's a good decision. Granted, Chelsea are not doing that, but I wish we did. And Barca they've gone and got Hansi Flick, who you would say is one of those elite managers, one of those experienced managers. What he did at Bayern was terrific. The German national team, of course, was really bad, but still, he's a good manager. And will he succeed at Barca? I don't know. It's going to be interesting, I think. I mean, this his reputation. It took a bit of a hit after the German national team job, and I think this is really his last chance at the elite level. If his job fails, I think the job he's going to have to take is going to have to be a way step down, because people will start to view that sort of Bayern season as a bit of like a one season wonder thing, which I think is really harsh. I think Flick is a fantastic manager. I think what he did for Bayern was terrific. Even in his second season, people forget they were really good, and in the Champions League they were unlucky. I remember they got knocked out by PSG and they had like 5,000 injuries. So I think Flick's a good manager. He has a really, really good style of play, really aggressive style of play. Will it work at Barca? I worry for some of the players like Pedri, who's like injury prone, may not fit that system, but players like Xavi, for example, he's going to love him. Lewandowski, of course, has worked with Flick before, so he'll be, Lewandowski, I think maybe could have left at the end of this season, but I think he'll stay now that Flick is here, and I think he'll be an important player for them, and for Flick to get his ideas across. But yeah, I think Flick's a good manager. I think don't expect, him to come in and do what he did at Bayern, right, and just win a treble in his first season, no. But I think Flick can do good at Bayern if he's backed, given the players he wants to play his system. I think it's good. I think it's a good appointment, and yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how he does. And I'm intrigued to see how the Barca fans take to him, considering he obviously slapped them 8-2 as Bayern Munich manager. Yeah, let's pop another piece of gum in. So let's move on. Let's talk Man United. Let's go to Man United now. I'm going to keep it brief with them because there's a lot of uncertainty as of recording about what's going on there. The reports are that Ten Hag will be sacked. Those were the reports before the FA Cup final, that it's pretty much done, no matter what. Ten Hag, of course, won the FA Cup, and as of recording, I have no clue whether that's going to affect it, whether he will be sacked or not. But from what it seems like, he might be sacked. Now, do I think this is the right decision? The way I see it is, I think a lot of clubs are in a very similar situation. Again, it's the same situation as Xavi at Barca and the same situation as Poch at Chelsea. This season has not really been too great. It's not been great. There's been some good moments in there, like the FA Cup final, and there's been mitigating circumstances for all of them, right? This is the same assessment I'm going to give them all, right? Xavi, Poch, Ten Hag, all of them have had pretty poor seasons with some very good moments in there. FA Cup for Ten Hag, the end of the season for Poch, Xavi, I mean, Champions League football secured. But overall, all three seasons, not great. All three managers, I think, it's safe to say, are definitely not the guys who are going to take these clubs back to where they should be. Xavi's not going to take Barca back to winning Champions Leagues. Poch was never going to take Chelsea back to winning Premier Leagues. And Ten Hag, realistically, is not going to take Man United back to winning Premier Leagues either. Let's be real. But that does not mean that these three managers are bad. And given these three managers have had some very tough circumstances and hands dealt, Xavi has had all this sort of uncertainty with the board and financial restraints. Poch has has had a super young team and a ton of injuries. Ten Hag, decimated with injuries, right? So, having said all that, again, with all these three managers, even though they're maybe not the long-term guys, they've shown enough from their times in charge that they are capable of stabilising the teams, right? Xavi has stabilised them, got them top four. Poch has shown that, he can deliver sixth place, which is a decent finish. And Ten Hag showed last season that he is capable of getting a top four finish. He showed that he's capable as well of doing well in cup competitions. So having said all of that, if you were to sack Ten Hag, that's fine. That's fine. If you were to sack Poch, that's fine. Sack Xavi, that's fine. But it's only fine if you upgrade them as managers. If you go and get, as Barca have done, Hansi Flick, an experienced guy who is, you can say, yeah, he's an upgrade on Xavi, even if it doesn't work. It's like, okay, fine. That's unfortunate because he's a very good guy, right? No one's going to sit and say Xavi's a better manager than Hansi Flick. It is not. And that's the same situation that I think Man United and Ten Hag are in. If you're going to sack him, you go get someone like a Hansi Flick, maybe like a Thomas Tuchel, or someone of that ilk, who you can say, okay, he's a definite upgrade on Ten Hag, and he can take you to that next level, right? Which maybe Ten Hag can't. But you do not sack him, in my opinion, if you go and get someone who is like who maybe has a higher ceiling, but is not maybe as good as Ten Hag right now. So you don't sack him and go get McKenna, in my opinion, because again, McKenna might have a higher ceiling. McKenna might become a world-class manager, but what's the point, right? McKenna is a huge risk, and it's very likely that McKenna would finish like 6th next season if it was with Man United. And if you were going to ask me where would Ten Hag finish next season if he had the full season, I would say probably minimum 6, maybe he could get into top 4. So, what's really the point there? And the way I see it is that Man United should only be sacking Ten Hag if they're going to get a replacement who is better than him, who is going to deliver more results, who is going to be guaranteed, or not guaranteed, but is likely going to be better than him. Because I just don't really see the upside then in getting rid of him if not. So yeah, that's my view on Ten Hag. I think he probably will go. I think he will. And in terms of who they get in, I think it'll probably be like a McKenna or a Potter, which I don't think it's a good appointment at all. I think they should try and get Tuchel, in my opinion. But Ineos have a lot of thought to do. I mean, they have a lot of thought to do at Nice as well. They lost their manager Farioli to Ajax, which is a really cool appointment there. But let's move on. Let's talk about Bayern, because it looks like they have appointed Vincent Kompany as manager. Vincent Kompany. Now, this is a shock. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Kompany, who has got Burnley relegated this season, is going to Bayern Munich, one of the biggest jobs in the world. Yeah, pretty mad. Now, I view this as slightly different. It's slightly different to the Chelsea Man United situation, where I said, it doesn't make sense if you're going for like a McKenna or a Maresca or a Frank, right? Because these guys are inexperienced guys and they should not be your first choice. It's slightly different for Bayern, and I kind of understand why they've gone for Kompany, because Zidane, they went back in for Nagelsmann. They tried to convince Tuchel to stay. They tried to get Ralf Rangnick. They tried to get Tenor. They tried to get everybody under the sun, and everybody rejected them. So they went down and down the list until they got to Kompany, and they finally found somebody who would say yes. And of course, it was going to say yes, right? So it is slightly different. I mean, it's still a mad appointment how someone can get relegated from the Premier League and now manage one of the biggest teams in the world. But I do kind of understand it, because the way, you see it is that, as I said, they got rejected by a lot of people. And then it's like, okay, who do we get? Let's try and get somebody who maybe, has a high ceiling, has the potential to become an incredible manager. Like, the upside of Kompany is incredible. The downside is very bad. Like, it could go horribly wrong. But when you're at the point where, okay, we can't go and get these elite level managers anymore because they don't want to come to us. Let's go and get somebody who has the potential to be a high ceiling, an elite level manager, and take that gamble. And I think that's what Bayern have done, because Kompany does have that potential. You see his style of play is very good, and I think they think that, okay, with better players, his style of play might work. Obviously, it didn't work at Burnley because his players were not capable of performing like that. But with Bayern Munich, maybe they can do that. So I don't think it's a terrible appointment. I think there is a chance he can do well, but I see the logic in him, even though it's mad, even though it's crazy. It's pretty crazy, but as I said, I see the logic, and I think he could do maybe well. He could, but we'll see. Speaking of Burnley, I feel really bad for Burnley, because obviously Kompany was going to take this, right? It's not like he's backstabbed them, but it's a little bit harsh on Burnley, because Burnley have stuck with Kompany this entire season. It's been a rubbish season under him. There's been points where they definitely could have got rid of him and said, you know what, we're going for someone who's going to try and keep us up. But he stuck with him in the thinking that, okay, this is going to be a long-term thing with him. We'll go straight back down, that's fine. But we dominate the championship with him before. We're going to dominate it next season, and we're going to rebuild completely to make sure we are in a better position in the long term. So then they go down, and then they Bayern Munich suddenly come in and take him. Now it's like, oh, what's the point? We should have just got rid of him in the middle of the season. What was the point of this long-term thing? So yeah, I feel bad for them. It'll be interesting who they go for. And how they do in the championship now without him. But yeah, we'll see how Kompany does at Bayern. Another one, which I'll touch on, Juventus appointed Motta as manager. Motta was the Bologna manager, and led them to Champions League football, which is incredible. He's done such a good job there. In 2 years, taking them to the Champions League, not even spending that much money, just improved so many players. So good. Really good up-and-coming young coach. It is still a gamble, right? But this is somebody who has, it's not like Kompany when he's got a team relegated. He's proven that he's capable of overachieving with teams in the highest division, playing attractive football, playing a good style, and we'll see how he does at Juventus. Obviously, Juve is a different kettle of fish because there's so much more expectations and pressure on you. But I think the fact that Motta was a player who played at such a high level, played for PSG, Barca, Inter, he'll deal with that pressure very well. I think he'll do well. Allegri was actually sacked after the Coppa Italia win because of his antics on there. He went pretty crazy in the celebrations and was disrespectful to the directors of football. He basically told them oh, you can't come and celebrate with the team, because I think Allegri already knew he was gone by then, so he was like, oh, I'm going out with a bang. And it was kind of in the Xavi situation. They didn't even let him carry out the end of the season, but he won a trophy in his final year, as he always seemed to do at Juve. Kind of similar to Xavi in terms of he did stabilise the ship. Like, Juve are in an okay position right now than compared to where he picked them up. But yeah, I mean, I don't expect him to get another top job right now, but maybe he's one of those where he's just a results-based guy, and I think if a team is like really struggling and just need a quick bounce, I'll probably go for him. But yeah. Sticking in Italy, AC Milan have got rid of Stefano Pioli as manager. Pioli, I think we all saw this coming. His time at AC Milan was up, but what a time it's been. I mean, he came in and nobody really thought he was going to do much. He was sort of just a stabilising manager. He went on to win the Serie A with them, take him to a Champions League semi-final. So he did an amazing job, but his time did come to an end. It got stale towards the end of this season, and they're trying to go, I believe, for Paulo Fonseca, which is a fantastic appointment if they can get that done. He's done really well at Lille, played some fantastic football, did a pretty decent job at Roma as well in the Serie A, so has Serie A experience, has rebuilt himself since at Roma, doing well at Lille. I think that's a solid appointment for Milan if they can get that done. Napoli also looking for a new manager after their disastrous season. Reports are saying that Antonio Conte could be going there, which would be, I mean, that's going to be fireworks. That's going to end after 2 years for sure, because De Laurentiis, their owner, he never gets along with managers, and Conte, we all know, doesn't get along with owners, so that'll end in fireworks. But I could definitely see, like, that's a good appointment in terms of a short term, like Conte coming in, because of course that squad is still, like, most of the Scudetto winning team is still there, so they could, under Conte, I think they could definitely challenge again for it. And I wouldn't be shocked as well if Lukaku came. Maybe a Lukaku or Osimhen deal could be sorted out. That'd be pretty nice for us as Chelsea. They might get Gasperini though. I don't know. Gasperini, Atalanta manager. Apparently the offers on the table for a new contract, but of course with these jobs around, I think clubs are sniffing around him. So it'll be interesting if he stays. And then some like other topics. Brighton obviously need a manager after Serbi's gone. I feel kind of bad because I think their idea was, okay, we're just going to get McKenna, right? And that's why they're probably happy to let the Serbi leave. We're like, okay, we'll just go get McKenna. But then suddenly Chelsea and Man United sat their manager and they want McKenna, and it's like, what? Okay. So I don't know if they'll actually get him, and if not, I'm not sure who they get. But whoever they get, I've seen like Russell Martin linked. That'll be a good one. But whoever they get, I would back to do really, really well, because of course Brighton, in Graham Potter, De Zerbi, they seem to get their manager appointments right. So I think they'll get their next one good. West Ham have officially appointed Julian Lopetegui. I mean, I think we all knew this was happening, but it was confirmed. And yeah, I mean, Lopetegui will do a pretty good job at West Ham. I think he's a solid manager. When you give him a decent set of players, which West Ham have, he does pretty well with. So I think he'll do decent, get some good signings in there, and I think West Ham can definitely challenge for European football under him. And then I also want to talk about Ipswich and the whole McKenna situation, because he's got a couple of offers on the table, potentially Brighton, potentially Man United, and potentially Chelsea, and potentially to stay at Ipswich. What would you do if you were in McKenna's situation? I think all four are attractive, right? Ipswich staying there. You know, you've built them up 2 years. This is a stable environment. You know the place, right? You're in the Premier League. Even if you go straight back down, that's not going to hurt your reputation too much, as you've seen with Vince and Kompany, right? And nobody's really expecting you to do wonders, right? So it's kind of a free hit next season. And there's an upside of if you do well, then suddenly you are one of the best managers out there. Or you go to Brighton, which is again a great move because we've seen Graham Potter, De Zerbi, all these managers, when they go to Brighton, they use it as a platform to go to those bigger clubs. So this is a great building step, a good step up, not throwing you too much in the deep end, but giving you a taste of Premier League football with less expectations and a chance for a bigger move. Or you go to Chelsea and Man United, where you get massive resources, you get a massive contract, and you get better players to manage, but that comes with higher expectations, huge pressure, and potentially, damage to your career if it doesn't work out and your reputation. So, I don't know, if I was in this situation, I had all those options, I'll be baffled. But it'll be harsh on Ipswich if they lost their manager. I feel like he should maybe complete this journey. He's taken them from League One all the way to the Championship, all the way to the Prem. Now let's see what you can do in the Prem with this side, because if they lose their manager once they get to the hardest point, which is in the Premier League, I really worry about how they do next season. I really do. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that's all of the sort of managerial madness that is going on. That was a lot, but yeah, I'll probably do another video on like when Chelsea appoint their manager, or United maybe appoint a manager, or whatever happens. But for now, we'll see what happens. Let me know any of your thoughts about these managerial situations in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Consider subscribing